beautiful job.
Thank you.
Really, really lovely. It's such a pleasure to watch you in this show. Can you talk to us? We talked a little earlier about the process that this has been, because of course we all like to think it just happened magically, right? Everything just fell into place. Talk a little bit about the process that you've had over time with this show. How did it all begin for you?
This show has been in my life for 3 years. So I was attached to the show. It's an independent television show. So we made it entirely without being attached to a streamer at all. So, and that's just doesn't happen. I mean, thank you. It was incredibly difficult. And it's like, way harder than independent film, which I've done a few indie films now. This was on a whole other level because you film an entire series and then you have to sell that. Really hard, but we did it, and it's like a miracle that it got sold. But yeah, so I attached. I basically was asked if I wanted to have a general meeting with Cooper. And so I watched Cha Cha Real Smooth, which I hadn't seen before, which is his wonderful movie on Apple. And I loved it. And we met, and he was kind of keeping his cards a little close to his chest. He didn't want to reveal too much about the show or that I would be playing a 9-year-old version of myself. It was sort of like a little treat that he was waiting for me to read. But he just kept saying he was using this device, and I would find out what that was later.
And how much of the series did he give you to read when you started out?
I
with
was
that?
given the pilot, and I think he was like, I was like dipping my toe in. He was like, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, send me the whole thing." And then I got a 300-page PDF of, at the time it was 10 episodes, and then it went down to 8, just because 8 is like the number that streamers have landed on for.
But it's 8 double, right?
What do you?
I mean, 8 is in 2 parts. Is that right?
It's episode 8 is an hour long.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we cheated our way through making 8 episodes. But it was so it was a 300-page Bible of a show, and I read it. I was still filming the last season of Riverdale, and I read it. Thanks. I read it, and I read it so quickly. I read it on my flight from LA to Vancouver, and then I was really sad when I finished it. I thought it was the most beautiful script I'd ever read at that point in my career. And I was also, I was flattered, but surprised that he thought of me. I think just because as an actor, like my body of work hadn't pointed to doing something like this. And I felt so honored that he did think of me. But speaking for him, he said that he casts actors a lot based on their interviews that they do. And I've noticed that a couple directors have said that, like, instead of necessarily watching their work, which they do, of course, but they watch their interviews and kind of study their body language and how comfortable they are in their own skin. And there's something about me in the interviews that he watched that made him want me to play his sister.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an insight into how someone is observing you. You wouldn't think that would be the thing. You'd think maybe in person, how the meeting that you would take with someone, or from watching their work. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, he wanted Harper to feel very in her body, and like we talked a lot about like Harper. I don't even think this translated, but it was a lot about like Harper being barefoot a lot, and Harper's always like very connected to the ground and to the earth. And he had said when we first met, he was like, "You're very in your body, and you take up the space comfortably that you're in," and that's something that I want in Harper. So it's like little things like that as a director he was kind of zeroing in on, and with his other casting choices as well.
Do you think that had anything to do with your dance training?
Yeah,
I mean, you started dancing when you were, from what
I
read.
It's bad. Yeah, no, I was not. I was not classically trained as a dancer. Wasn't supposed to dance. I did dance like growing up. Like I took like jazz and ballet. Wasn't not meant for me, which is why I pivoted.
Yeah.
I did musical theater. I went from, dance classes to musical theater, and that sort of was my entryway into being an actor.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that he saw something in all of that, and in not just in your work, but in the way that you handled yourself in those interviews, to make him think that, oh, this would be something that could work for the two of you. So after these kinds of things happening where it wasn't a solid, now we're going to start, how long was it when you actually started working together on this project until you finished
We had a
filming?
year, which is actually
Wow.
feels like rare. That it feels quick to me
Mm-hmm.
with the way that things work these days. I can be attached to something for like 4 years and then it still doesn't happen. So bless
Mm-hmm.
you. Um, yeah, so I was attached for a year, and then Riverdale season 7 wrapped, and then a month went by. I told him I had to go on vacation. Like I needed to just get out of I needed to go on vacation
Uh-huh.
before I jumped into playing this like emotionally tormented woman.
Yeah.
And then I jumped right in. But so we knew we were going to make it independently, and Cooper got a few. It's hard to send people, financiers, a 300 page. No one wants to read anything past 90 pages, including myself. So getting sent, 300 pages is a lot, but people read and responded very quickly. And I think people really have a lot of respect for Cooper's work. His first film, Shit House, and then Cha Cha Real Smooth. People love his work. And so I think they were really excited about this and intrigued by obviously an independent television. So we got financing from Lionsgate TV and just made it independently and shot in LA for 2.5 months. We had like 54 shooting days or something. It was really challenging. It was not a lot of time for, 5 hours of TV, um, no budget, and like very small crew. And but we all showed up because we loved what he had written.
Wow, that sounds like a labor of love.
I mean, yeah, you don't do independent anything unless you
Yeah.
love it. I think it's so hard, and getting
Yeah.
it made is so difficult that like, and I know in my own career I don't attach to something that's independent unless I know I'm willing to fight for it, because I know
Mm.
that when I attach, this thing may never get made, or it may get made in 7 years from now. So
Mm-hmm.
I could, the amount of time that it takes to, which is so sad, because I think like the best projects and the best scripts are independent, but they just are not given the money,
Mm-hmm.
including this.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
had enough to do it,
we
which
did
is
it.
great.
Yeah,
So, did that happen after Sundance this year? Is that how that
yeah.
happened?
Mubi acquired us after Sundance, and then we also just went to Tribeca, to just try to get more visibility for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for you in a role like this that is so vulnerable, how was it? Well, first of all, Cooper, who plays your brother and is also the writer, director, and creator of the show, how was that? First of all, the relationship with him, in that he's directing you, but you're in the scene together.
Yeah.
And then I also want to talk about how you bring yourself into the work.
I really enjoyed having Cooper as my scene partner and director and writer. I think a director writer combo is really quite an amazing experience to have, because no one knows the material better than that person. But I also find from my experience being on set, a lot of times there's a bit of a can be a bit of a barrier between actor and director. They're in the other room, and they're like in a tent surrounded by the DP in their ear or other people, and it's kind of distracting. And sometimes I will say, like, a couple sentences a day to the director, just because they get pulled into other things, and they're like, "Oh, you're doing your job. I'm not worried about you," which is great, and it's fine, and to have that trustworthy feeling. But to have my director in front of me and sort of feel like we have this intimacy was really, I really liked that. I felt like any question I had, he knew the answer. And especially someone like Harper, who to me, essentially, I had to view, and if you watch the rest of the show, like it feels like very kind of two separate women. You have a young 9-year-old version of her and then the 24-year-old version. So I kind of had to split the two a little bit, but I think it made it easier for me. But we shot this in a non-linear way because we didn't have the, of course, money to shoot it in a linear way. So we would shoot a scene from the finale and the pilot on the same day, and which was confusing when you're working with 300 pages of source material. But like, I mean, I read it multiple times and kind of tried to, it was helpful for me to break the character into two people so I could keep track of like what's going on in this timeline and what's going on in this one.
So the pilot wasn't separate then.
Not
You
at
did
all.
okay.
Yeah,
So you
all
made
in
that
the same
all
thing.
within. Okay,
Yeah.
and so for you, I also want to touch on the fact that you're an EP on this and how that might have, there's such a responsibility when you're also doing some of the heavy lifting around, you have your actor track and then you also have someone who's responsible to help get this project done and get it
Yeah.
made. And was there anything for you that you found particularly great about being on both sides of that?
I mean, I really find I like being a producer in an EP because I get to be just involved in the process from start to finish. And I just inherently have always wanted to be a part of everything I do from start to finish. I was like 12 and I did a PBS pilot, and I was 12 and I was emailing the director like every day being like, how's it going? So very annoying of me, but like it was kind of always been ingrained in me to sort of just want to be in the know. And I feel like being an EP is just a fancy way of saying that you get to be in the know. And then, because I attached a year prior to shooting, we used my name basically as the lead actress to help get the funding. And then Mark came on after me.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And Betty
How did that
too.
happen?
Yeah.
We
to us
we still
about
don't know.
He just magically appeared,
Well,
as he does in
the
Independent.
truth is, we were told it's not going to happen. We were making lists of dad, who's our dad? And Cooper and I would go out to lunch and be like, who's our dad? And have these conversations. And Mark was just this pie in the sky name of this incredible actor that we were told by our own teams and people around us, you're not going to get Mark Ruffalo. And because he's Mark Ruffalo. And I'll tell the story for him because I've heard him tell it a million times. But Cooper and Mark shared the same agent, and Cooper convinced the agent. He said, "Can I just please have like this general meeting with Mark?" And the agent told him, "Just whatever you do, don't bring up the show, don't bombard him, don't say anything about it. Just have a general meeting and get to know one another." And within 5 minutes, Cooper was like, "I have this show." And Mark was like, okay, great, send it to me and I'll read it. And usually I feel, as a producer, I can say this, sometimes you are quite literally waiting like 2 months for someone to read something. So sending something to Mark, it's like, well, we don't know when we're going to hear back. But he responded very quickly and was live texting Cooper reactions to the show. And he was like, wow, I just hit this scene and I'm listening to the song that's in the script and it's beautiful. And then he said yes, which was I was like, oh, okay, Mark is going to play my dad, which felt incredible coming off of Riverdale, just knowing that this next chapter of my life, going from this big commercial young adult television show to then wanting to pivot into more, I don't want to say serious because that sounds a little annoying, but like just a different genre, a different type of acting. I wanted to make that pivot, and this just like I couldn't have asked for a better project, but then also for a better scene partner and for a better person to make this with than Cooper and Mark.
Boy, that is just like a dream come true, it sounds like. To have somebody like that gives themselves obviously so much, or that we feel in the independent work that he does, which he has done a lot of, and for him to be a part of the project like that. How about for Betty? How did she come in?
I think Betty and I shared the same manager. So my manager was being a good manager and going, well, I have someone who could play Kate for Dad. And then I don't actually know how that happened, but I think Betty is one of the most talented actresses of all time. And I I need to work with her again, but she's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she did a beautiful job, and that really made the family, the new family, really feel
Yeah.
well, interesting, layered. There was a lot that was going on, of
Yeah.
course, all the time.
She's an incredible actress.
So, getting back to how you get into, you have a lot of very emotional. I mean, tonight you saw 2 episodes, but there are more to be seen on Mubi. For you, jumping in, like you said, it wasn't linear. You were telling the story, and also there were a lot of flashbacks in
Hmm.
the in the project as well.
Mm.
Like for you, how, if you don't mind sharing with us, how do you prepare for scenes that are going to be emotional and very natural and a lot of close-ups?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we really wanted the camera to feel like it was a part of the scene and not like you're an outsider watching things. And I am I've always been different in a way that I actually feel that it's yes. Well, so when I get a script and there's always like this dreaded like crying scene, which can be very daunting, and especially when it's like tears are streaming down her face, and you're like, okay, now I know what's expected of me. But a lot of times in this show, most times the crying was not scripted at all. It just is because Cooper's such an incredible writer, and these people that we're playing felt incredibly real. So we just ended up crying. But when it is scripted to cry, I definitely rely on music. And I also have learned, and it took I think a little time for me to learn to ask that or tell my director or people what space I need. I need my 5 minutes, or I need my, usually it's only like 2 minutes. I'm like, I need 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. Please start rolling, because I don't want to walk in and then hear someone shout rolling as I'm like trying to get into it. So I think it's just a matter of I've had to learn to be just clear about what I need, because at the end of the day, we're all there to do the same thing. And sometimes I think when you're on a set, that gets forgotten a little bit, which is kind of crazy, because it's like ultimately we're here to make art, and it doesn't really matter about if the costume's not fitting perfectly or if the continuity of the hair isn't perfect. It's like we're just here to make something that touches people. And so Cooper knows that, and a lot of indie filmmakers know that. And I think just expressing that I needed a specific amount of time, which is not a lot. I'm like, 2 minutes, let me listen to my whatever it is in my headphones and sort of get into that space. But I also didn't have to work that hard, because the writing just had it. And I was also surrounded by, like, when you look into Mark Ruffalo's eyes, you just want to cry, because he's just like Mark. I don't know. It was Cooper makes it easy with his writing, and sometimes you're doing crazy things, and you have to cry, and it totally does not feel natural, and I have to like pull a memory in the back of my brain and keep it playing in the background while I'm in a scene, and it can feel kind of fake. But luckily with this, I feel like I can speak for all the actors when I say our emotions were just very on our sleeves the whole time. And I think it helped that we were kind of exhausted. I feel like, so for example, Riverdale, we shot, you have a budget, and we shot like maybe 4 to 5 pages a day in a work week. And then for this, we were shooting like 11 pages a day, just because you
Wow.
just don't have the budget to keep the
Yeah.
location for 2 weeks. You need to
Mm-hmm.
do it in one. And so you just need to bang it all
Mm-hmm.
out. So that's just indie filmmaking.
Yeah. Wow. Um, their grief and loss are a big theme in this. How did you feel like, to be true to what was happening for the story, that you had to go to a deeper place than you normally would?
Well, I read a book called Motherless Daughters, which my friend whose mother had passed away shared with me, about what it would be, the perspective of a child losing their mother, how their responsibilities change, especially as a sibling, how you become inherently sort of that parent to your sibling. And so I read that and I took notes, and I never looked at the notes. I just read the book, I took the notes, and I sort of like and then I never opened the document again. And I knew I wouldn't. It just was sort of a subconscious thing that I wanted to have in the back of my head. But I think that book definitely helped. And then I think I just deeply loved the character that Cooper wrote. So I felt for her. And so when I'm crying as Harper, it's sort of like me crying for Harper. I feel for her and I'm sad for her. And I just feel like I didn't really have to reach that hard because the story itself is inherently sad but beautiful if you watch the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful. You've given us that I could talk to you for a very long time. I know that there are a lot of people who would love to know more about and your experience with this, and hopefully we'll be able to watch more interviews that you'll be doing, just like Cooper did, and watching you and getting to experience your viewpoints on this project. One thing, just when an actor goes onto a set that is so tight, like you all are so, your main character is so tight there. What is your advice coming in when, like you've been involved with the project at that point so long, so you have somebody that's coming in to playing a supporting character. What is your advice to actors as far as coming into that space?
That's a good question. I feel like the most success, let's just speak for other people. Like when I've seen someone come onto a set, or no, I'll speak for myself. Like for Hustlers, for example, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I was surrounded by J Lo and Constance and Cardi B and like Lizzo, and I'm like, I feel very out of place. And I was like 21, um, and I think in hindsight, I would have told myself, you belong there and you should show up to set knowing that you belong, because I've definitely experienced walking into a hair and makeup trailer sort of sheepishly, almost like I feel bad that I'm there or like I'm taking up space, and I feel, oops, sorry that I'm taking up space that I was actually cast to be in and fill that role. But I just think there's this thing, if you're like not number one on the call sheet, because I've been both number one and then I've been both number, I don't even know. So I've experienced both ends of the spectrum, and I think both are equally as important. And I think so, the people who show up and know that they have every right, respectfully, obviously you have to be respectful, but like know that they have every right to be there and are also there to play and share their art. We're all just, it's a weird job. It's a really weird job. We're just playing make believe. And so I think if you remember that we're all just here to like play pretend, I think it helps sort of alleviate like, well, you're not playing pretend any better than I am. We're both pretending. So to just know that that's just what we're all doing and it's all equal.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, that feels really good. Because you also want to be respectful to those that are there, and you want to be respectful for those that are coming in.
Yeah, but also
Both
knowing
ways.
you were cast
Yeah,
for a reason. It's
yeah,
not like nothing to be sheepish about. I think show up.
right. Yeah, love it. Well, we're going to have to end. I wish you every success
Thank
moving
you.
forward with everything that you do, and also with this wonderful project. Do you think there might be a season two?
No.
No. Okay.
That's Cooper always goes no. I mean, it's a limited series, and I hope you
Yeah.
watch the whole thing, and you'll
Yeah.
see in the finale. You're like, this is where it should end, and
Okay.
certain things that should be it, and that's the story of this family. So yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
so
with
much.
us,
Thank you
Lili.
guys. Thank you.